The smell of motor oil and metal shavings still clung to my uniform as I pulled into my driveway. 12 hours at the shop, dead tired, just wanting to see my baby, my 1967 Camaro SS that I'd spent 18 months rebuilding from a rust bucket into perfection. I hit the garage remote. The door groaned open, revealing chrome that could blind you and paint so deep you could swim in it. That's when my world exploded. "Thief! Someone call 911, he stole my car!" My HOA president neighbor Brenda came charging across the lawn like a rabid pit bull, cell phone already pressed to her ear. "Yes, there's a black man stealing my car right this second. Send everyone." Police sirens were already wailing in the distance. She'd called before even confronting me. I'm standing in my own driveway, holding my own keys, looking at my own car, about to be arrested for theft. What would you do if your neighbor weaponized the police against you in your own driveway? Drop a flag emoji. Where are you watching from? Let's see how far this insanity travels. My name's Marcus, and I'm a third-generation mechanic. My grandfather taught my father taught me, and we've been keeping cars running in this town for 60 years. When my divorce finalized last spring, thanks to my ex-wife's sudden discovery that grease under fingernails isn't sexy, I used what little I had left to buy a modest house in Willowbrook Estates. Middle-class HOA community where the lawns are perfect, the mailboxes match, and everyone minds their own damn business. Or so the real estate agent promised. The Camaro wasn't some midlife crisis purchase. I found her at an estate sale 18 months ago, a rusted-out corpse that most people would have hauled to the scrapyard for $30. But underneath all that decay, I saw pure American muscle waiting to breathe again. $3,200 later, she was mine. Every weekend for a year and a half became my personal resurrection project. New 350 small block, rebuilt turbo 400 transmission, complete suspension overhaul. The paint job alone took 4 months of sanding, priming, and wet sanding until the Hugger orange finish could blind low-flying aircraft. I documented every bolt, every gasket, every drop of sweat with photos for insurance purposes. Kept every receipt in a 3-ring binder thicker than a phone book. The smell of fresh primer and metal shavings became my Saturday morning cologne. Coffee growing cold on my workbench while I lost myself in the meditation of mechanical perfection. Enter Brenda Wilson, the human embodiment of a homeowners association fever dream. Brenda moved to Willowbrook 5 years ago and immediately appointed herself queen of everything. Real estate agent who drives a white BMW that gets detailed more often than most people shower. Manicured nails that have never touched actual work. Highlighted hair that defies gravity, and a smile that could freeze anti-freeze. She'd been HOA president for 3 years running, unopposed because nobody else wanted to volunteer for neighborhood Gestapo duty. Her specialty was weaponizing paperwork. Trash cans left out 12 minutes past pickup, fence posts measuring 2 1/8 inches instead of regulation 2 inches, mailbox fonts that weren't Willowbrook approved. The woman once cited me for grass that allegedly exceeded the 2.5-inch maximum, showed up with an actual ruler. "Just maintaining community standards," she'd said with that synthetic smile. 2 weeks before the garage door incident, she'd marched over while I was bleeding brake lines. The screech of my impact wrench apparently offended her delicate sensibilities. "Excuse me, but there's a noise ordinance. No power tools after 6 p.m. I wiped my hands on a shop rag, stayed diplomatic. "Actually, city ordinance permits hobby work until 9 p.m. Happy to show you the documentation." Her smile turned arctic. "Well, we'll see about that. This kind of industrial activity affects property values." The way she said industrial activity, like I was running a meth lab instead of restoring American history. The day everything exploded started with Brenda's monthly pool party extravaganza. Saturday morning, her backyard filled with neighborhood wives sipping mimosas and pretending to care about each other's vacation photos. I could hear the artificial laughter through my garage walls. Then her voice cut through the chatter like fingernails on glass. "Oh, that's my new Camaro. Just bought it from a classic car dealer in Phoenix. $45,000, but totally worth it. They're shipping it next week." My socket wrench clattered to the concrete floor. She was showing people photos on her phone, photos of a car identical to mine, basking in their impressed coups like she'd personally invented the combustion engine. That afternoon, needing brake fluid, I fired up my baby and backed out slowly. The 350's rumble echoed off the houses like mechanical thunder, deep and primal and absolutely gorgeous. When I returned an hour later, Brenda stood in her driveway like a statue of suburban rage, arms crossed, face flushed, staring at my car with the intensity of a hawk watching a field mouse. I nodded politely. She didn't respond, just kept boring holes through my Camaro with those predator eyes. That night, I'm betting she spent hours online, building her delusion brick by digital brick, convincing herself that somehow, some way, I'd stolen her imaginary purchase. By morning, she'd transformed from annoying neighbor into something far more dangerous. A Karen with a cause. When 2 patrol cars screeched into my driveway with full light show blazing, I knew my peaceful Saturday evening was officially screwed. 4 officers poured out like they were responding to an armed bank robbery, which, according to Brenda's Academy Award-worthy 911 performance, they were. Officer Rodriguez, a 20-year veteran with kind eyes and the patient demeanor of someone who'd seen every flavor of neighborhood crazy, approached with his hand resting casually on his belt. His partner, a younger guy named Morgan who looked like he bench-pressed squad cars for cardio, flanked him with notebook ready. "Evening, sir. We received a report about a stolen vehicle at this address." The sheer absurdity hit me like a brick to the forehead. Stolen vehicle? "Officer, this is my car, in my garage, at my house." That's like saying I stole my own refrigerator. Brenda materialized beside the officers like a suburban poltergeist, still clutching her phone with white knuckles. "That's him! That's the car thief! I just bought that exact Camaro yesterday for $45,000. I took a deep breath, tasting the lingering exhaust fumes from my perfectly legal muscle car and trying not to laugh at the cosmic joke my life had become. Stay calm, I reminded myself. My old man always said documentation beats desperation every time. "Officers, I can prove ownership right now." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photo album I'd obsessively maintained. "This car has been mine for 18 months. I rebuilt every bolt from scratch." Rodriguez studied the progression photos with genuine interest, rust bucket to rolling chassis to painted perfection. His eyebrows climbed as he swiped through images of me installing the engine block, priming body panels, stitching the interior. "That's some serious craftsmanship," he murmured, zooming in on a shot of the engine bay. "You do this professionally?" "Family business. My grandfather would have beaten me with a wrench if I'd done sloppy work." Meanwhile, Brenda was having what appeared to be a full psychological break. "He's lying. Look at these." She thrust printed photos at the officers, clearly downloaded from some dealer website 5 minutes before calling 911. "I wired the money yesterday. They were shipping it this week." Chen examined her evidence with the enthusiasm of someone reviewing tax documents. Generic dealer stock photos, no VIN numbers, no actual paperwork. Just glossy images that could have been any orange Camaro built between 1967 and yesterday. "Ma'am, do you have purchase documentation, bill of sale, wire transfer receipts, dealer contact information?" Brenda's face turned the approximate color of a fire engine. It's all being processed. The dealer said paperwork takes time for classic cars." While she improvised her explanation, I was digging through my garage workbench like an automotive archaeologist, 3-ring binder organized by date containing the complete genealogy of my mechanical baby. "Here's my DMV registration," I said, handing Rodriguez the holy grail of vehicle ownership. 18 months old, my name, this address, matching VIN. His flashlight beam danced across the official state document. Everything aligned perfectly. Numbers, dates, signatures, the works. Insurance policy, too. I flipped to the next plastic sleeve. Progressive required photos of the restoration progress for agreed value coverage. Chen was scribbling notes, occasionally glancing at Brenda's increasingly creative explanations. The woman was unraveling faster than a clearance sweater, and I was starting to feel almost sorry for her. Almost. "Officers, he obviously forged everything. He's probably running some sophisticated identity theft operation." That accusation was my cue to deploy the nuclear option. From the very back of my binder, I extracted a piece of yellow legal paper, edges soft from handling and memory. Written in the shaky cursive of a 93-year-old widow, 1967 Chevrolet Camaro, condition as is, extensive rust damage throughout, $3,200 cash. Buyer assumes all responsibility. Below that, a signature that belonged in a museum. Eleanor Hutchinson, estate sale, followed by a phone number and date from 18 months ago. Rodriguez examined the handwritten bill of sale like he'd discovered buried treasure. "This is the original purchase document?" Eleanor was selling her late husband's project cars. Sweetest lady you'd ever meet. Made me promise to bring the car back for her to see when I finished. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my neighbor's sprinkler system 3 houses down. Chen closed his notebook with the finality of a judge's gavel. "Ma'am, this gentleman has clear chain of ownership documentation spanning over a year. Your evidence appears to be internet printouts." Rodriguez's tone shifted to that special register cops reserve for people having public meltdowns. "Ma'am, I need to inform you that filing a false police report is a misdemeanor offense in this state. My dad was a prosecutor for 30 years, and I've seen people get real jail time for knowingly providing false information to law enforcement." The color drained from Brenda's face like someone had opened a valve. There must be some terrible mistake. The stress of car shopping, you know how confusing these things can be." But her eyes told a different story. As the officers prepared to leave, I caught her staring at me through her living room window with the cold calculation of a chess master planning her next move. This wasn't over. This was just round one. Monday morning slapped me awake with the subtlety of a diesel engine backfiring. I'm stumbling to my mailbox in yesterday's work clothes, coffee mug steaming in the crisp air, when I spot the official HOA violation notice tucked inside like a venomous snake. Notice of covenant violation, unauthorized commercial vehicle storage. The citation claimed my work van, a perfectly ordinary Ford Transit with Rodriguez Family Auto painted on the side, violated community standards. $200 fine, 48-hour compliance deadline. At the bottom, Brenda's signature flourished like she'd just signed my death warrant. Through my kitchen window, I watched her power walk past my driveway, shooting glances at my van like it was parked on her grandmother's grave. Her morning jog route had mysteriously expanded to include 17 passes by my house. I counted. Here's what most homeowners don't realize about HOA covenants. They're actual legal contracts, not suggestions written by suburban dictators having midlife crises. My divorce lawyer taught me that everything has a paper trail, and paper trails don't lie. I spent my lunch break at the county courthouse digging through public records like an automotive archaeologist. What I discovered was better than finding a winning lottery ticket in my back pocket. My van, purchased in 2017, 3 years before Willowbrook enacted their commercial vehicle restrictions in 2020. Any vehicles owned before rule changes are automatically grandfathered in, protected by law from retroactive enforcement. Brenda could complain until her vocal cords snapped, but she had zero legal authority. I drafted a response that would have made my old man proud, attached copies of my purchase documentation, and hand-delivered it to the HOA management office. The receptionist's eyes widened as she read my rebuttal, probably calculating how much trouble her starboard member had just bought herself. "Oh dear," she whispered, like she was watching a car accident in slow motion. "Mrs. Wilson isn't going to appreciate this development." She had that right. By Wednesday, my mailbox had become Brenda's personal complaint distribution center. 3 more violation notices materialized like bad magic. Alleged oil stains on my driveway. I power wash monthly with the dedication of a monk. Excessive automotive odors from my garage. Apparently the honest smell of WD-40 and determination offended her delicate suburban sensibilities. And noise violations during perfectly legal hours. The woman was carpet bombing me with paperwork, hoping something would stick long enough to cause damage. That's when I made the smartest investment of this entire war. I went full Big Brother on my own property. 4 high-definition security cameras, strategically positioned, all recording to cloud storage with night vision that could spot a mosquito landing on my mailbox. The footage revealed Brenda's new hobby, property line surveillance. Every morning she'd patrol our shared fence with her iPhone, taking photos, measuring distances with a collapsible yardstick that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The woman had turned neighbor watching into an Olympic sport. Thursday evening brought the nuclear option, an emergency board meeting to address my ongoing violations. The notice appeared in my mailbox at 4 p.m. for a 7 p.m. meeting, barely legal notification designed to prevent anyone from mounting an actual defense. I showed up at the community center expecting a kangaroo court and found something worse. 3 middle-aged women sitting around a conference table like they were planning a church fundraiser. Brenda, her nervous Lieutenant Clara, who apologized for breathing too loudly, and Janet, whose primary qualification appeared to be nodding enthusiastically at everything Brenda said. "Where's the rest of the board?" I asked, claiming a chair across from this improvised tribunal. Brenda's smile could have preserved meat for winter. "This is quite sufficient for tonight's business. We're implementing an emergency ban on all automotive repair activities, effective immediately. Past violations carry a $500 fine." I pulled out my phone and opened the HOA bylaws I'd memorized that afternoon. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is a tactical nuclear weapon. Fascinating theory, but Section 4.3 requires 7 days advance notice for voting matters. I scrolled through the document like I was reading a restaurant menu. And Section 4.7 mandates a quorum of 5 board members for official votes. I looked around the pathetically empty room. I count 3 people, which gives this meeting all the legal authority of a neighborhood book club. Clara's face turned the color of overcooked shrimp. Well, this is just preliminary discussion. And Section 2.9 states that invalid meetings create personal liability for individual board members. I'd done my homework, thanks to 3 hours of legal research and a pot of very strong coffee. Brenda's composure shattered like safety glass. You think you're so smart, don't you? Coming into our neighborhood with your people and your activities? The venom in her voice could have stripped paint. But my old man taught me something valuable about dealing with bullies. Stay calm, stick to facts, let crazy people hang themselves with their own rope. I think I'm a homeowner who reads contracts before signing them, I replied. Novel concept, I know. That's when neighbor Tom appeared in my driveway later, apologetic and slightly embarrassed. Most of us think she's completely lost it, he confided. Want to grab coffee tomorrow? I think it's time we talked. Friday morning brought an unexpected doorbell symphony at 7:15 a.m. Dave Martinez from City Code Enforcement stood on my porch, clipboard in hand, and the 1,000-yard stare of someone who'd spent too many years mediating neighbor wars. Sorry to bother you this early, Mr. Rodriguez. Anonymous complained about unlicensed commercial auto repair. Mind if I take a look? I led him into my garage, where the morning light illuminated my weekend sanctuary. The smell of metal polish and clean motor oil hung in the air like expensive aftershave, and every tool had its designated home on pegboard walls that would make a Swiss watchmaker weep with envy. Dave's tension evaporated the moment he stepped inside. Jesus, this is cleaner than the shop where I get my truck serviced. He ran his finger along my workbench, coming up spotless. What do you do for work? Family mechanic business. This is pure hobby. Weekends only, no customers. He nodded, scribbling notes while admiring my engine hoist setup. Anonymous complainant claimed you were running an illegal business. I see zero evidence of commercial activity, customer vehicles, or cash transactions. You're absolutely golden. As Dave climbed back into his city truck, he paused with one foot on the running board. Off the record, I've been to this neighborhood 4 times this month. Same voice every time, different complaints. Lady needs a hobby that doesn't involve my department. Brenda's next masterstroke arrived via certified mail, a formal complaint to my homeowner's insurance company. She'd contacted Progressive directly, claiming my garage activities created an unacceptable fire hazard, threatening neighboring properties. The letter demanded immediate inspection or policy cancellation. When my insurance agent Bill showed up Tuesday afternoon, I braced for bureaucratic hell. Instead, I found a kindred spirit who spent the first 10 minutes admiring my Camaro's engine bay like it was the Sistine Chapel. Someone's definitely trying to screw with you, he said, signing his inspection report with a flourish. Your fire safety setup exceeds commercial standards. Half these neighborhood garages are death traps with their propane tanks and extension cord Christmas trees. Bill's company responded by sending Brenda a cease and desist letter that basically translated to, "Stop filing false insurance claims or we'll prosecute you for fraud, Karen." But our neighborhood Napoleon had discovered the nuclear weapon of modern warfare, social media. The Willowbrook Neighborhood Watch Facebook group materialized overnight like a digital cancer. Brenda's inaugural post featured photos of my work van and garage, accompanied by prose that would make a dog whistle manufacturer proud. Just concerned about maintaining our beautiful community standards, she wrote, with enough artificial sweetness to cause diabetes. Some recent activities might be more appropriate in industrial zones, don't you think? Tom showed me the screenshots over coffee, his face redder than a fire engine. 23 people joined in the first hour. It's like watching a dumpster fire, but you can't look away. The comment section became a gladiatorial arena. Several neighbors jumped to my defense, sharing their own Brenda horror stories. Others lurked silently, probably calculating the social cost of opposing the HOA's reigning dictator. Brenda's digital dictatorship imploded when she started deleting disagreeable comments. Nothing ignites suburban fury quite like obvious censorship, and soon the group fractured into warring factions debating everything from free speech to property values. Sunday morning brought escalation to my actual property.